The minute you hire them, like the minute they say, yes, I want this job, jump in the car, go to the Cadillac dealership with them, and help them buy a Cadillac. Because if they buy that Cadillac, they're not going to quit anytime soon. They're too motivated to stay. That's the advice I got for the first real job I got out of the Air Force. That's kind of what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with Story Power. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I'm sure you've been given those golden opportunities where the golden egg is just laid out in front of you and all you have to do is grab it, right? Maybe it was the job offer. Maybe it was that person who said to you, listen, just sign up with our program. You'll be a best-selling author in 90 days. Sign up with our program. I'm going to get you on 500 stages over the next year. Sign up with our program, buy this thing, drive this car, join this club, and everything in your life is going to be a hunky-dory on the other side of it. It's a true story. The first major job that I had when I came out of the Air Force, I worked at IHOP and the pizza place for a couple of months, but then I had an offer to actually work with a publishing company. We published the Farm and Ranch Directory. And after the first day on the job selling, I had accomplished absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. Zero. Zip, zilch, nada. I went back to the office and I told the guy that ran the place, I said, look, I'm not sure this thing is sellable. He said, well, it's not the thing that's not sellable, it's you. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, tell me about your experience. That's why I went to this one place to sell and I walked in the door and the guy went behind the counter and then left and never came back. And he looks at me and he goes, did you go in there looking like that? And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, this is the best clothes I got. And he said, well, that's the problem. And I'm thinking, so you're telling me that my cheap wardrobe is the reason that I didn't close the sale? He said, no, do you own a pair of jeans? I said, well, yeah. He said, do you have a pair of boots? I said, well, yeah. He said, take the rest of the day off, and tomorrow morning when you come in, put on those jeans and put on those boots and come right here and I'll go with you. So the next morning, I did exactly that. My jeans, my boots, a decent shirt. We walked into exactly the same customer's office to close exactly the same sale. The guy looks over the counter at me and he goes, you was here yesterday. I said, I was. I'm surprised you noticed. And the next words out of his mouth framed an understanding that even today in Story Power, I train this. He asked the question, where are you from, boy? And that was not a rhetorical question. It was a qualifying question. He wanted to know if I had what it took to do a deal with him. And so I told him, well, I just got out of the Air Force and moved to this area. He said, why this area? I'm like, what, are we playing 20 questions now? I said, well, I moved in with my grandpa when I got out of the Air Force. He said, great, who's your grandpa? I'm like, what are the odds? His house is 30 miles from here. The chance that you know him is like 0. And then I told him his name. He said, oh yeah, I know him. He works down at the bank. And I said, well, he did until he lost his eyesight and, now he stays at home. He said, well, tell him I said hello. I don't even know this guy's name yet. I just know he runs this establishment. And he said, well, what about your grandma? I said, well, she doesn't live here anymore. She lives in Dallas. He said, well, who was she? And I told him. And he's like, oh, I know her family. She's like the youngest of 13 or something like that. And I'm like, what are the odds the guy who runs this establishment in this little town knows all these people 50 miles away from here? This is crazy. But that's what it took to get his trust. Just revealing a little bit about who I am and who my legacy is and who my heritage. And so it went from there. In that entire county, every time I went in to make a sale, people would look across the counter at me and they go, where are you from, boy? And I said, well, my granddad's from Lindale. My grandmother's from Grand Saline. I grew up right here around Ben Wheeler area and met my wife in just outside of Tyler, Texas, in a little town called Flint. And that was enough credibility for them to look at me as a local, and they understood me and they trusted me, and I sold and I made a lot of money. And after I got really good at selling, then the boss who told me, put on your jeans and your boots to sell this product, said you should go hire a bunch of people because you get portions of everything they sell. And we're going to sell this product in these other 5 counties, but you don't want to have to be driving that. So go to that county, make a trade with the local hotel, make a trade with the local restaurant, use the inventory and the product to do that so you don't have to pay out of pocket. And then find you a local that knows everybody in town to go do the ads. But the first day they say yes, take them to the car dealership, get them signed up on a new loan. Because the minute they have the burden of that new loan, they can't afford to quit. They're going to keep selling because they need the money. It was about 15 years after that. I'm sitting in a sales office. Now I've been around the Primerica group and the A.L. Williams group and the Buy Term Invest the Rest group and all these different people who had a different way of looking at finances. I didn't grow up with money. I know nothing about money. So I'm buying whatever game they're selling. I'm looking at these guys driving their Cadillacs and Mercedes, and I want some of that. And whatever they did to get it, if it's legal and moral, to the best of my understanding, I'm in. And then I get a job interview for a real job. There's a commission involved, but it's not a straight commission job. It's actually a paycheck job. And so I go in and I fill out all the paperwork. I answer all the questions. I take all the quizzes. I go through 3 or 4 rounds of interviews. And then I got a phone call one afternoon. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. The guy calls and says, hey, I'm the CEO of XYZ company, the same one that I've been doing all this testing for. He said, I am absolutely blown away. As many years as I've been in this industry, I've never seen sales scores this high. He said, I really think if you buy into our product, you are going to be one of the best salespeople we've ever had. I see you making, I don't know, $250,000 in the next 12 months. Of course, my eyes are lighting up. My ears are hearing ching, 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 ching. It's like I just hit the jackpot. He said, I just got a couple of questions for you. Are you intimidated talking to people with a net worth of XYZ? And so we have our conversation for several minutes, and then he says to me, how do you feel about selling annuities? I don't know a lot about them. I do know that my stepdad was a life insurance salesman. He sold a whole lot of whole life and universal life policies. And having spent all that time around the A.L. Williams group, I had a very limited knowledge and understanding, but I had the concept that buy term invest, the difference was much better for middle class people. That's probably not an untrue statement. I'll let Patrick Bet-David and the experts in that industry hash that out. I'm not in the insurance industry. But I can tell you that as of the date of that phone call, on the one hand, I've got a $250,000 potential income in the next 12 months dangling in front of me, the golden egg. Here you go, just do this and you'll make this. And on the other side, I've got my moral compass that says, to the best of my understanding, selling annuities to people that can barely keep the lights on, that's not good morals. It makes good money. That $250, it's only there because people are willing to buy these things because you can help them to see how eventually that's going to pay off. And I'm not saying that it won't. There are a lot of people who have a lot of money in annuities and they're doing really, really well. This was almost 30 years ago. I didn't have that clue. I had no idea what the short and the long term of that was going to be. What I know was I was proposed the golden egg. I was told, just take this. Well, I blew that interview by simply telling him, you know, I grew up broke. Well, we were so poor we couldn't have life insurance. I mean, we were good to have potato soup and food stamps. That was a good day. So I don't know. I'm not intimidated by those people. They're just humans to me. I got no problem having a conversation with them. Obviously, I got a lot to learn and a lot of training to do, but I'm not a big fan of taking money from people to make myself rich when they're barely making it. What I didn't say is I don't want the job. But what I did say is I'm not qualified for the job. All the test scores were off the charts. But what it took to have that job was something different. A willingness to sell even when it's not in the buyer's best interest. Not an exchange I was willing to make. Now I look back at this point, now I have to be honest and say, not from that day till now have I made $250,000 in 12 months. It has never happened. And do I look at that and go, well, my wife, my family, my kids, my household, my bank account perhaps would be in a completely different place if I'd simply stayed on it and had that job? Probably so. Would what we have now ever have been built? I have no idea. So I want to ask you the question. Has the golden opportunity been laid in front of you? And if it has, what did you sacrifice to get it? What did you give up? Now, I know there's a whole lot of hypotheticals and unknowns, a whole lot of conjecture, a whole lot of looking forward going, well, you know, I could go after this. And if I go after that, if I make this deal, if I pursue this opportunity, every yes requires a no on the other side. If I'm going after that, I can't pursue that at the same time. It's impossible to chase two rabbits. So what is it that you want when you give up something for something else? How do you decide which one of those two is the one you should be pursuing? I was listening this morning to a podcast. The podcast is called Anatomy of a Dream. I wandered across it. I've never heard of it before. I think the young lady's name is Tiffany, who hosts the podcast, and she had a guest on by the name of Sharan Srivatsa. I hope I'm saying his name right. It's Indian. I wrote out all the letters as phonetically as I could based on the way I understood him say it. Sharan Srivatsa is a guy who came to America playing tennis at 16 years old. That's how he got his foothold here, went to college, went to MBA, built his business. But he told of an encounter that he had with a guy where he helped him build his business up, and the golden opportunity was laid out in front of him. The guy said, I'm going to go find investors. Now that you've seen my business, now that you've helped me build it up, it's making good money, it's growing. I'm going to go find some investors to invest in it to take it to the next level. And at that moment, Saran said, why don't I just do it? How much money are you looking for? And he said, I can actually do that. I could be your sole investor in going to this next level. Let's map it out. Let's do it. So they made the money transfer, et cetera, et cetera. And within 2 weeks, the guy vanished. Golden egg, stripped away. Not just his money gone, but the growth is gone. The opportunity is gone. That money's never going to return, much less return an investment. There is no ROI on money lost that way. But see, the huckster was able to put the golden egg out there in a way that he looked at it and went, I'll take that. I'll invest in that. And of course, whatever else he might have done with the $1 million that he invested in this guy, who knows? Maybe that million becomes 10 billion. Who knows? Nobody knows the answer to that question. What we do know is that someone was able to convince him to invest in this golden egg, to jump at this opportunity, to take the sacrifices necessary to pull that off. Last night on our 6 weeks to boost your business with Story Power call, it was week 6, last week, and we talk about a very intricate part of communication, and that is having the moral fortitude to stand behind your ability to persuade, your ability to communicate. Now, I can tell you, if you haven't watched it, go find Anatomy of a Dream. Find the episode with Sharon. I found it on YouTube. Watch that episode. And you're going to see what I talked about in the last couple of episodes, and that is Even executive leaders need to be good storytellers. They need to understand the purpose of the story. They need to understand what they're conveying with the story. They need to understand what they're evoking and provoking people to do with the content of their story. Sharon did a phenomenal job at that. Within just the 45 minutes or so that I've listened to so far, he told 5 or 6 stories. Dumpster diving story, getting lost in the plane at the airport story, not getting on the right bus story, going to the financial aid office at the campus story, getting shystered by somebody over $1 million story. He also told a story about how through all of those journeys his parents and his wife have believed deeply in him. Now, the contrast between each of the individual stories that he told, which build character and credibility and allow you to see that he's been through it. Yeah, he's succeeded. He helps billionaires build their business. He's got mental roadmaps on how to make better decisions and all that kind of stuff. Pretty fascinated. I've never heard of the guy before today, but I'm pretty fascinated with the way he thinks. A lot like Patrick David and some of the other business consultants that I listen to. But he contrasted this guy with the double set of numbers. Without even saying it outright, this guy had stories as well. This guy had communication skills as well. He had the ability to sell as well. And if you're going to succeed in business, you have to have that. If you're going to succeed as an executive, you have to have communication skills. You have to have stories to tell. You have to have the ability to tell those stories well. You also have to have one other thing. In the 6 weeks course, on the 6th week, we talk about how the narrative that you lead that drives people to do business with you is anchored in the stories that you tell. It shows up in every story that you tell because that narrative is a demonstration of the who that you are and the intent that you have. If you know who you help and how, you have a narrative. But if you lose clarity on that, if you forget about the who that you help, if you forget about how you help them, if you are really only concerned about helping you, you've got a different kind of problem. And that different kind of problem is your story power is a superpower, but your character is a kryptonite. There are a whole lot of people who have mastered storytelling skills. They've mastered the sales and persuasion skills. They've mastered the ability to advance their cause. And in every industry, every vertical market, every business type, dare I say even in ministries, politics, and nonprofit organizations, there are those people who've gotten so good at storytelling and communication, they can weasel just about anybody. If you haven't seen the movie The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, if you haven't seen The Beekeeper, go watch The Beekeeper. The whole movie is about a group of people who have hired and trained salespeople who are really good manipulators. They're good scammers. They're good hucksters. They're good hustlers. Oh, they're doing the work, but they're doing it criminally. They're dialing for dollars. They're on the phone. They're putting in the hours. There's no question that they're doing the hard work. They're just doing the hard work with no moral compass. They're doing the hard work to get that golden egg without regard for who they hurt in the process. Look, if you're learning from Story Power Academy or Leading Leaders podcast some tips and tricks to be a better communicator, to get people to lean your way and making the decisions you want them to be making, if you're learning to be more persuasive, that's awesome. But I'm going to challenge you also to be morally good, not just productive for you, not just padding your bank account. I mean, I could have had a $250,000 paycheck. I could have, probably more than once. And whether it was my own self-sabotage that kept me from succeeding there, or it was a moral compass that said, I'm willing to do a lot to earn money, but not that. I am where I am today because of the decisions that I've made, the people that I've hung around with, the ones that I've followed, and the ones that I've removed from my life. The same is true of you. The same is true of every human on earth. You are where you are because of the 5 people you hung out with and the 5 books that you read most recently. Because the decisions that you make today are impacted by those things every day. As I listened to Sharon's story, there's a moment where Sharon says, when I lost that $1 million, I had to sit down with my wife and explain how I lost it. I had to explain to her that it's probably not coming back. And she believed in me again, because he also tells the story of a time that he decided to leave his big paying job and go be a part of a startup that was currently losing money. And he's like, I want to invest all of my savings in this. I think I can rescue the company. And she's like, well, I guess that means my paycheck's paying all the bills for a while. And they made that sacrifice together. And as we were walking in the studio this morning, I turned to my wife and I said, when have you ever done that for me? And it took her a minute to kind of think through the process. But our family sat down in August of 2010 and made the decision to take what little tax return we had from the previous year and invested in becoming a certified John Maxwell leadership coach. That bill came due at exactly the same time that our AC went out in our house. And as a family, we agreed we'll get fans, we'll get space heaters. It's going to take us time to save up the money to replace that heat and AC system. Well, we've already made the commitment to the John Maxwell team, and we're going forward with that. That was 16 years ago. Our family made that sacrifice to invest in becoming the person that I am today. The time that we've invested, the money that we've invested, the people that we've helped, the lives that we've been a part of, seeing them move to the next level. If I had to trade being a slave to a job because I can't walk away from the $250, I bought the Cadillac, I still have to make the payments on it. I can't move on from this job even though now is the time, now is the season, there's a better opportunity. I can't because I owe. How many people do you know are trapped by their big paying job? How many people are trapped by the relationships that they're in? How many people are trapped by the relationships that they are committed to and they shouldn't be? We've made sacrifices. Have they all paid off? No, not all of them. Have all of them been a phenomenal ROI? No, not all of them. But if you continue to learn from them and you hold as your highest goal, not necessarily the bank account, but a clear conscience, you're going to make sacrifices in different areas. And if you put together that persuasive skill with that kind of moral compass, you won't just change your life, you'll change the lives of people around you. I want to challenge you as a leader and as a communicator. If you're part of this Leading Leaders community, part of the Story Power Academy community, I really want to challenge you to hold on to your convictions. Now, there's opportunities out there. You could, for lack of a better term, sell your soul, so to speak. There's plenty of money to be made. There's plenty of money in the pie. And there are, as you've seen, businesses that turn and burn. They make a whole lot of money and they're gone tomorrow. They make a whole lot of money and they're gone in 6 months. And all of the people that invested in them, I guess they got what they came for, but they don't have anything ongoing support. There are a whole lot of guys that sell, gals that sell, businesses that sell one idea that by itself looks great. And when you invest in it, you got that one idea. But that idea, pushed to its fullest extent, makes nobody rich except the guy that sold the idea. That's not what we do here. We want to see everyone that invests, that participates, that joins this community, rise to the highest level. But not the highest level of income at the cost of moral compass. No, the moral compass to me is more important than the income. As John Maxwell says, and I know he got this quote from somebody else, you don't become, or you don't achieve in life what you want, you achieve in life who you become. The person you are is what's going to dictate the success that you have. Maybe not in financial means every time, but if the financial means come and the character goes, you lost. You didn't win. If you can keep both, awesome. But don't sacrifice your character for a short-term opportunity. It's just not worth it. I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, or Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at Story